Well, it was just a matter of time. President Trump has decided to drop all tariffs for most countries down to just 10%. This is huge for the American people because this now means we are not going to see this runaway inflation like the Federal Reserve was concerned with. There's also a very good chance that these major banks like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, who have been reporting a 60 to 65% chance of a recession here in the United States, this could actually reverse that, which means we may not be going with higher unemployment, higher inflation, and millions of people simply sitting at home wondering how can they afford food, how can they afford their rent or their mortgage, and how are they going to afford to buy a car. So what just happened over the past couple of hours is massive. I want to break this down, explain what is going on and what this means for the American people moving forward. But before I do, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So yes, that is true. President Trump temporarily drops the tariffs to 10% for most countries while also hitting China even harder with a 125% tariff. We learned this just this morning that President Trump, and it happened at 12:01 this morning, that President Trump was hitting China with an effective 104% tariff. Well, China reciprocated, they retaliated, and now it's 125%. I told you this before. I said just be prepared because what President Trump does, and I've seen this for years, it's nothing new, is he comes out and says, I promise you this. And he gives you this number up here. Okay, and he says, okay, I'm going to give you this. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. Okay, he was going to raise tariffs all the way here, but there was a little bit of pushback. There was some issues. Countries didn't like it, and so then he said, okay, you don't like this? Let's bring it all the way down here. Let's settle here. Let's negotiate. Again, keep in mind, President Trump is a businessman. He's a negotiator. That's exactly what happened. Now, I want to play this clip for you. This is from Caroline Levitt. Listen to this.
As you all know, the president just put out a statement announcing an additional tariff on China. The tariff on China will now go up to 125% because China imprudently decided to retaliate against the United States. And as I said at the podium yesterday, when you punch at the United States of America, President Trump is going to punch back harder. In that same vein, we have had more than 75 countries from around the world reach out to President Trump and his team here at the White House to negotiate better trade deals for the American worker. We have been overwhelmed with the amount of requests from countries around the world. I'll let the Secretary speak to that. We will continue with the tailor-made negotiations that I spoke about yesterday. In the meantime, there will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be brought down to a universal 10% tariff. The Secretary here has been a huge part of the President's trade team, of course, and will continue to lead these negotiations moving forward to look out for the American worker, which is always President Trump's goal. So I'll kick it over to our great Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
So there you go. So there will be a universal 10% tariff across the board. Keep in mind what it used to look like, okay? This is what it was, okay? Look at this. This is what it was, okay? Again, things are changing. Okay, now it's across the board. So before, and you look at all the different figures, like this is crazy, right? 59%, 99%, 80%. Again, it just goes on and on, right? But now it's 10% for most countries. That's what's incredible, is that President Trump said, we're going to charge you this, but no, we're going to accept this. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, okay, but how does that actually help the United States? Because aren't we trying to move towards tariffs and away from taxes? And the answer is yes. But keep this in mind. President Trump was going to impose a tariff on every single country, and it was going to be different. But just the logistics behind it was going to be insane. So that's why some were thinking, and I was one of those people, that I was believing President Trump is bluffing with these numbers. He was going to impose them. The American people were going to absolutely freak out. The stock market sold off, and it's bounced back. It's great, right? If you bought in over the past couple days, it's coming up. But what I've said before is President Trump does this. This is something that he's done before, okay? Whether it's with stimulus checks, whether it's with unemployment benefits, whether it's with getting rid of taxes, and he promises we're going to eliminate taxes for everybody. But then at the end, it's like, okay, we're going to promise you the moon, but we're going to give you this, right? It's still a great big benefit beyond what you're getting now, but it's not the moon. That's what's happening. I want to read a few things to you. Look at this. It says, Trump says he reversed tariffs because people were a little bit yippy and afraid. Now I want to read a little bit of this to you because, again, this is what we are hearing. President Trump is trying to do what's best for the American people. What's best for the American people is we slowly roll out these tariffs to other countries. We slowly increase them. We can't come out and say, you know what, we're going to charge you 50%. That's what we're going to charge you. And I think President Trump and many experts realize that's exactly what we should have done, but we didn't. Now, what does this mean moving forward? Well, here's what it means. It's a 90-day pause, okay? Keep this in mind. It says President Donald Trump dropped the new tariff rates on imports from most U.S. trade partners to 10% for 90 days to allow trade negotiations with those countries. Trump announced the pause hours after goods from nearly 90 nations became subject to stiffer so-called reciprocal tariffs imposed by the United States. Not only that, I was getting word from a few friends of mine who work in some of the ports here in the United States, and they were saying things like there's goods that are being left at the ports. Businesses are not coming to pick them up because they don't have the money to do it. They don't want the item anymore. They just want the item either sitting there and they will not pay their supplier in China because they never received it, or the item's going to be sent back to China, and again, they're not going to pay for it. Because if we are going to see 125% tariff or 104% tariff on the goods coming from China, I guarantee you, U.S. businesses in some cases are not going to buy those goods. Those are going to sit there. They will rot in the container before some businesses go and pick them up. Yeah, that's what we're seeing. So again, keep in mind, this 125% tariff on China, it's effective immediately. Says the president also said in a social media post that he was raising the tariffs imposed on imports from China to 125%, effective immediately, due to the lack of respect that China has shown to the world markets. Keep this in mind. China is not the only supplier out there. China is a massive market. We need to trade with China, but we do not have to trade everything with China. That's the key. President Trump has been on this for years. We cannot send all of our jobs to China. We can't buy everything from China. We need to make products here in the United States by American workers so that we can supply jobs, we can stabilize our economy, and we are not reliant on another country like China. Again, China's a big player here. And I think we are going to pay more for certain goods coming from China. But at the same time, if the United States and the American people decide, you know what, we are just not going to buy anything that's Chinese made because we know it's coming with the 125% tariff, guess what happens? China is now going to have to negotiate. But this is where things get very, very interesting. What we're about to face is some uncertainty. Here in the United States, things are great, but what does China now do to the United States? Okay, keep this in mind. And I've said this before, it's been years or months, but I said this before where we have Chinese cranes at our ports. What if China decides, you know what? We have access to some of our infrastructure, right? They buried their way in, right? We know Chinese hackers, we know they've been able to get inside of our infrastructure, okay? Whether it's our transportation systems, right? We've seen them, was it in the IRS or the FBI or something like that, just a handful of months ago, right? We've seen that before. We've seen Chinese hackers take down some of the healthcare systems here in the United States, okay? We know they're in our electrical grids. There's issues. So I don't know what's going to happen, but what I've been telling you for several weeks is to be prepared. Because right now, the United States imposing a 125% tariff on China is only going to anger the Chinese government. So we'll see what happens. All I can tell you right now is the American people are pretty ecstatic that number one, stock market's going up. Number two, prices do not look like they're going to jump up like everybody was expecting, which again, if we don't see prices go up, then there's a good chance we don't see higher unemployment. And if we don't see higher unemployment, there's a less likely chance we dip into a recession and things will be perfectly fine. But again, that's what we're hearing as of today. But as we know, things can change in a moment's notice. So as we get new updates, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get them. But again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.